All right, back to talking about tight turns, 20-foot radius. We attempted to do some more by hand without a proper rail bender, and you can see we can't quite hit this guy. And yes, we could stake it down and pivot it and get it to go around the corner, but that's not the main problem. The hard part, you might say, is when you get to the ends and where your rail joiners are. And to get that last curve on the very end of your rail is quite tough. Now, a couple of people have said, get your turn, and then, if you did it with your homemade rail bender, and then chop off the ends, and then you're more likely to have that continuous curve through the end of your rail. Another thing I did is, with the rail bender that we had, I bought some metal wheels, and I attempted to just keep pinching it towards the end just to get the ends done and not even worry about the middles, because you can, get a pretty good curve with those. Yeah, you can see here, terrible bend. It's still straight on the end, and then a quick kink, and then it goes straight again. I have a bunch of rails in here because I was trying to use the rails to help me out, but it just, I don't know. I was fighting. Another thing you might do is you might spread out your joiners even farther apart, and then you can use the curve of a continuous rail where it meets the joint there. But even that, I've tried a couple of times, and it gets tough, man, on these ends. So let me show you what we did. So first, let me show you some rail that we got done here. Look at that curvature all the way out to the ends. And how did we do that? We basically caved, and we purchased ourselves an Accu-Tie rail bender. Yes, folks, it's official. And it's sweet. So if you get one of these, you basically get this part right here. I even had to buy these extra bolts, hex bolts here. They don't come with it, depending on what you're gonna fasten this thing to, but our lives are so much easier already with this. If I could go back in time, I would have let a couple paychecks go by, saved up, and got myself one of these right away. So let me show you what we figured out. It did take a little bit of learning to figure out what to do, what part to tighten, and how much to tighten. Not too much, not too little bits at a time. We'll talk about that right now. A couple of interesting things if you're gonna get this guy. First of all, this hex nut up here is 8mm, but then up here we have 3/8 standard. And then it just so happens that when we purchased these guys, the ones that fit best, 5/16, and then we happen to get 16 thread. We fastened it to a 2x6 here, so it has some portability, and then we can just clamp it down. If you happen to do that, these guys that we got here were 3/8 with the 16 thread, and then 2-inch. So 2-inch will get you right to the bottom, and then we happen to use these guys on the bottom to thread into. So these prong T-nuts, 3/8, and then once again make sure the thread matches. And it's on this 2x6 nicely. Then get into the right place, fasten down, and get to work. Make sure you got enough space on either side. So to get started, we had to loosen this guy up so it'll slide back and forth fairly easily. So just shy of hand tight, and then pull this guy out a little bit, and then we'll be putting the rail in, kind of start to get her snug. I've been doing this just hand tight on top, so it still can slide. You can actually crank down on this and this won't move. So just been doing hand tight so it doesn't bend at all, and I don't think it's gonna anyway. Just the way it's constructed, it's pretty top notch, solid. You can kind of see where it hits the rail. Basically just in the channel is where it hits. Cool. So anyway, yep, get this hand tight, get this cranked into position, throw on the ratchet, and what you'll see me doing is only like an 1/8 of a turn. I'm not doing very much at a time, and then ultimately, from our experience so far, is you'll see it gradually start to bend as you're going back and forth. But then, there'll be that one point, if you're gonna be trying for 20-foot radius turns like us, there'll be that one little turn that all of a sudden, whoop, the rail takes a nice swooping bend, and you just gotta be careful. You don't wanna go too far. I've been just taking very small turns at a time. Another nugget of information, as you know, if you've seen our videos, we pre-drilled all our holes on all our rail before bringing it back. And if you happen to get a bender like this, I'm not so sure, maybe you drill the holes after you do the rail bending. And it's not the biggest deal in the world, but those bearings can kind of get caught up on your holes as you're going through. You can kind of see it clanking through. But it's not the end of the world. Once again, you can just take a run at it. Once you get it, tension on and everything, you can get it through just fine. But something for you to think about if you're gonna drill holes yourself and get this kind of bender. Maybe drill your holes afterward, and then you'll have a nice smooth exit and enter when you do each end. There you go, see? When you pull it out, and then when you want to try to get it back in. Here's another tip. If you do have the holes like we do already, like I was just saying, just take a little run at it and you can usually get her to go through just fine. And of course, a little run to pull it out too, to get the bend all the way to the end. Mama. Now we're starting to get some tension on there. Probably end up tacking my workbench to the wall. Cool, there you have it. Now, do you need this if you're not doing 20-foot radius and you got nice long 60-foot, 32-foot or more radius turns? I'm not so sure. I don't know if you'll need the rail bender, but at 20-foot radius, we invested in the rail bender. So there you go, look at that. We got curvature all the way to the end. So we are very excited. Couple of notes about this rail bender and Accu-Tie. Now, we purchased because I think we're gonna need it, and we'll have one in the neighborhood too for a couple of buddies and stuff that are gonna get into backyard railroading. But you can actually, well, talk to them and you might be able to rent this and just pay for shipping. So if you need a rail bender, of course you can try to make one. We tried, didn't quite get there, but we lack tools, we lack machinery and stuff like that to help us. So we bought into this from those guys at Accu-Tie. You might look into borrowing one of these from them, where you'll just pay for shipping to and from. I'm not sure if they still have that when you're watching this video, but you could check that out at Accu-Tie. All right, now we're getting somewhere. Look at that. Those ends are actually pointing in the right direction to make this turn. All right, until next time.